Hello everyone, today I'm here to review for you the brand new edition of Codenames, thanks to CGE for giving me a copy. This is the revamped version. Let's go over, however, if you've never heard of Codenames, how it plays, and then I'll give you some pros and cons, and I'll also let you know if you own the original, if you should be upgrading. Let's jump into it. So, in Codenames, the players are going to, as evenly as possible, split into two teams, with each team nominating one player to become the Spy Master for the first round. Then you're going to be laying out a grid, a 5x5 grid of 25 unique word cards. The Spy Masters are then going to draw a key card between them. They are going to have a look at it. It's also got a 5x5 grid on it and will indicate which words in the grid are, well, the team's words. 8 of them will be in blue, 8 of them will be in red, and there'll be one additional one for whichever team is going to be starting the round. So one team will actually have 9. There'll also be a load of beige spaces. Those are bystander answers where there isn't actually a team for that. They're basically misses for both teams, and there is one black assassin square, which we will touch on in a minute. Looking at that key card, the arrows around the edge are either going to be blue or red, indicating which team is going first, and, well, then the game can begin with that team's Spy Master giving a clue. The clues have to be one word and one number. Let's use the example of Robin 2. Looking at the grid of cards, I'm thinking maybe Robin Hood. Oh, that's quite a good link. Maybe Robin Hood also with a bow, and that's got a bit of a link in there. So by saying Robin 2, I'm saying there are 2 words to do with the clue, the one-word clue of Robin. To make a guess, the team's going to basically prod one of the word cards in the grid, and then their Spy Master will reveal if they're right or wrong by taking, hopefully, their team's tiles and putting one on top of that word card, saying, yes, that was indeed one of ours. However, if it was one of the bystanders, they'll just put a beige token over the top of it. They could even have poked one of their opposing team's words, and they'll then have to get their opponent team's tile colour, pop that down on the grid to be like, oh, we really mucked up there. Or you can super muck up by getting the assassin tile. We'll go over what it means for the rest of them, but if you do get that assassin tile, you lose the game. Not just the round, not like, okay, we'll carry on next round. No, if you get the wrong one, so much so that you guess the assassin word, your team just straight away loses. Of course, hopefully that doesn't happen, and if you got it right, you can carry on guessing by poking at a different word. You're allowed as many guesses as the number that was said in the clue, so going back to the example of Robin 2, you could make up to 3 guesses, as long as you are continually right. Because if you do poke one of the bystanders or one of the other team's words, that ends your round, and well, you're just going to have to keep that clue whirring in sort of the back of your mind for a future turn. Whether you've guessed up to your limit, you've decided, oh, we're going to stop there, we're not too sure on any others, or got either a bystander or one of the other team's words, your turn is over. It's then the other team's Spy Master's turn to give their team a clue, and so on until one team has managed to guess correctly their last word. And at that point, they win the game. So that is how you play Codenames, but of course there's a few extra little tidbits, such as you want to keep in the spirit of the game. The rulebook gives a really nice example of utilising, say, letters. If the word you're trying to hint towards is ray, then you could say X, because X-ray is a fair clue, but you wouldn't be able to say the letter B with a number to sort of hint towards words that start with the letter B otherwise. That seem, that the words actually starting with the letter B in the grid, whereas X-ray, the word being ray in the grid, doesn't start with an X, so it still feels like a clue. Another one of these ones that it says in the rulebook is, like, you don't want to use sounds like sort of situations unless it's still to do with it. Again, the example they use is snail mail. Well, that is a thing, like, you say it because it's really slow, but you wouldn't want to sort of use ear for hear. that sort of thing. The rulebook though does say don't be too strict. If your group wants to use or allow, say, acronyms like NASA, which, well, does actually stand for something, you can, but just make sure your group agrees beforehand. So let's start off with some positives for Codenames. First of all, getting the game to the table. This is going to be one of those gateway style, party style games that you can get to the table with pretty much anyone. Yes, you do have the language dependence of English, but you can get it to the table with very wide amounts of people, young, old, family gatherings, all that sort of thing. And it's very quick to get to the table. The setup is as quick as splitting into teams and putting 25 word cards out on the table. To teach the game, I actually like doing that, putting that grid out and say, okay, I'm going to give everyone here a clue just so you can get the idea of it, and give them a clue to do with some of the words. They can start discussing it and you can talk through it nicely. That's how quick, within a minute, people then know how to give a clue, but also how, when they've received it, to start sort of going, oh, could this be the right word? Well, I think it's these two. It's like, okay, pick which one you think it is most. We'll go see if that's the right one and then carry on. Then one of the brilliant things of this, and because you're going to want to play one game back to back, if you've done that in the teach, rather than removing those word cards from the table, just flip them over, because the words are double-sided, which means you've got a whole ridiculous amount of combinations of the words that could come out of the box and have in that 5x5 grid. So there's so many combinations of the words, they're always going to be different, and it's that simple. If you're playing again or you've used them as that example to teach, just flip the word cards over and you're ready to go. While we're touching on the production quality, like I'm saying, those double-sided word cards are awesome, we've also got to touch on the new thing in this one, and that is the new stand. It's made out of rewood. This is a material that we're starting to see creep into board games, and to be honest, I'm all for it. It works just as good as a plastic stand. In fact, if anything, the way you slide the card in means, unlike some plastic stands where you have to be a bit careful you don't pinch the card, I've not had any of that. Obviously, I've not played for 10 years or whatever with this copy, but for now, the quality of that rewood stand for the key card is really good, and I'd be very happy to see it as a material pop up in more games, as it's eco-friendly and just as good. Of course, production is one thing, but the gameplay is also a fun one as well. As long as you can keep that speed up, that word association goodness is here in abundance. And one thing I do like about it, that it sort of says in the rules, is you don't have to be too strict. If you and your group want to, you know, use certain things, like I said earlier, like maybe like use NASA, which is technically not just one word, you can, and you can do that. And I think that just allows people of maybe different ages to join in, and you just be a little flexible and not be too strict. That also enables you as players to make some really good joining clues, and make clues that only you, your friends / family will get. And, well, who doesn't love making like an in-joke, in-reference when playing games? Now, there's a couple of things that, depending on who you are, you'll see as a pro or a con. For me, Codenames fits a really nice player range for me. Of that 4 to 8 players, that's when this game can hit the table, and, well, there's not too many games on my shelf that do that player count well. But splitting into teams, and while it does say in the rulebook split like evenly in personnel, I think it's just as good if you want to split by abilities. So say you've got some younger family members, maybe 2 of those are the equivalent of that rather intelligent adult that you're like, I want that person on my team. So you can balance it, I think, almost by perceived ability as much as by just the number of people on the teams, and it works just as well. Of course, because of the higher player count, it does mean that if you've got less people, you're not going to be able to get this game to the table. But if you're like me and do also play a number of games at 2-player, there is Codenames Duet, which has also got a sort of a new look to it as well. Another thing is that first-time players can find it a touch daunting to be that spy master, but there's a very easy fix. As long as one person has played before, let them be their team's spy master, giving that clue, or just give some clues and examples of those clues of the one word, one number out as an examples, as a little teach at the beginning. That alone, I think, just helps people come up with something and say, look, you don't always have to find something that is that links 4 words together. You can just go for one. It's not as fun if you just go for one. So try and come up with at least a 2, a 3, but you don't have to be trying to link 4 of your team's words together on a single turn. Just ease that pressure off people, because you don't want to put pressure on teammates and friends and family anyway, right? And that's, for me, a really good thing to make sure that you're not doing, because if you do put a bit too much pressure either on yourself or other players to come up with that perfect clue, it can slow the game down. And I think this is one thing that a lot of party games can suffer from when you're doing this. If it takes one person too long, they get that bit of AP, analysis paralysis, coming up with the perfect clue, then it means everyone else around the table has that little bit of waiting, that downtime, and that can bring the sort of excitement level down a little bit. Just come up with a good clue quickly and go from there, and just keeping that downtime as low as possible helps Codenames shine. So what do I think of Codenames in general? Well, it's not going to be too much of a surprise to say that I do like the game. I have the original version on the shelf, I have Duet on the shelf, I have the Disney version on the shelf. So yeah, I like Codenames. I like the ease that it is to get to the table, the fact that it handles a good number of players, which is perfect for a gathering, be that with friends or families. It's really short in playtime, which means, oh, let's play this at the start of a game night, or well, we've got a little bit of time left of our game night. Why don't we crack this one open? I think that works really well as a starter, an icebreaker, or maybe let's just finish on something that we can all play together. It can suffer if people take too long giving clues or receiving them and working out what to guess, and that's when downtime can creep in, but as long as you can get away with that, you and your group can certainly have a lot of fun with Codenames. Of course, it's also important to talk about this versus the original. If you have the original, the changes are kind of nice. The box, I do think, looks a lot more striking. I think it will capture more eyes, be it on a shelf in a board game room or on a shelf in a store. So I think more people will probably pick it up as a result. Apparently they have refreshed some of the words, but that's not necessarily that noticeable. The reword stand is a nice touch, but it's not game changing, but it is a good improvement. But if you have the original, unless it's a worn out copy because you've had it for many years and played it lots, then you probably don't need this version. For everyone else, there probably is a space in your collection for this version of Codenames though. I just want to say thanks to CGE for letting me take a look at this new edition. They passed it to me at UK Games Expo, and well, we've certainly been enjoying it. Let me know if you've played Codenames, be it this new fancy looking version or the original. Let us know in the comment section below what you think of the game, and until next time, have a Codename filled good day gaming.